Hello viewers, and welcome to an unusual interview video. I'm having back on the channel someone I've already spoken to who you'll be familiar with. You may remember me posting an interview video from when I was in London when I chatted with Javier Ortiz, who is my co-producer on a special project I'm working on, a documentary film titled The Truth About the Truth. Javier and I thought it would be a great idea for him to come back on the channel and give you guys an update as to where we are at the moment. So Javier, welcome back. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me back on, man.
Fantastic. So what's new? I mean, obviously we started filming, or at least I got involved with the filming back in April when we met up in London. I know you'd done a little bit of filming before that. So fast forward to November, where are we up to now?
Well, as of the last interview we shot was with Kurt Metzger, and I posted a little clip of that on the film's Facebook page. But we have a couple of things scheduled. If we can try to get it in before the end of the year, we will. But it looks like, other than that, it's somewhat on a little bit of a hiatus till January 20. But we have big plans for January. We're just, me personally, I'm getting taking care of some other work and a couple of other projects that have been pushed to the side to work on this.
Yeah.
So I'm getting back on track with those, and then we're hoping to hit the ground running in 2018. Indeed.
In the best tradition of documentaries that are made by people with a passion for the subject, this is a film where we basically started making it before we had the money for it. So it was very much a case of buy some equipment, do a bit of filming, buy a bit more equipment, arrange a few more interviews. And I think the basis of material that we've already built up is quite astonishing. In fact, I get a headache whenever I think of doing the post-production, trawling through the whole thing and, getting down to the really powerful stuff, because there's so much in there to choose from.
Yeah, just on the things that we've shot already, we have actually more than 40 hours of footage. So, and I would say we're not even a quarter of the way done. So we still have a lot of work to do and a lot of footage. And yeah, it's going to be interesting, the whole post-production process with this thing. Indeed.
Now, when I was in America in June, I was absolutely thrilled to kind of catch up with you. And because we had an event in LA. And
right.
That event was, shortly before that event was the first time I'd seen the Sizzle Reel, because obviously we've produced a Sizzle Reel that's aimed at, trying to secure funding from investors and that kind of thing. Now, the Sizzle Reel got shown at, the LA event from my tour, the Seattle event and the Vancouver event. But those people who were at those events were the only people who got to see the Sizzle Reel. Now, do I have your permission to show the viewers the Sizzle Reel that those guys saw?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the Sizzle Reel for the documentary The Truth About the Truth.
Think about the apostate-driven lies and dishonesties that Jehovah's organization is permissive toward pedophiles. I mean, that is ridiculous, isn't it? If anybody takes action against someone who would threaten our young ones and takes action to protect our young ones, it's Jehovah's organization. We reject outright such lies.
My name is Lloyd Evans. I am a former Jehovah's Witness.
I was baptized in 1984 as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. We made the truth our own, which is an expression that most Jehovah's Witnesses are familiar with.
I was an auxiliary pioneer. I left school to do that.
He started to molest me from the time I was 7 until the time I was 13. And only did I find out later there was many, many children that he had done the same to.
I immediately started digging into the blood doctrine independently. The Watchtower Society does not want you to use any information other than what they provide. It's seen as coming from the devil.
I'm being shunned by my entire family. I have 3 sisters. I have a younger brother, of course my parents, all of my extended family.
You told Dr. So-and-so that you had been molested hundreds of times. Candace replied, "That's what it felt like to me." The lawyer then pointed his finger at her and said, "But it might have only been 5 or 10 times. That's it."
That's crazy. Like, the first thing you do is protect what? The good name of not going to the cops? I don't understand, like, how that's good PR. Wouldn't you rather be known as, oh, when we hear about this, we go right to the police with it?
Men themselves are imperfect. Maybe an organization is imperfect too.
Parents don't actually have the power to protect their children because the power to control relationships in these groups is at the top.
The Royal Commission made findings that basically declared that the Jehovah's Witness organisation wasn't a safe organisation, didn't protect children.
Your time, the things you do, extracurricular activities are all within the organisation and within a specific group of people. And when you find yourself outside of that circle, it's a traumatic event and some people cannot handle it.
Here you have this kind of paradox. You have an institution that had this knowledge, was in fact consulting with some of the best experts in the field, and yet their policies are to sweep it all under the rug, keep it covered up, don't go outside of out of the congregation, certainly not, don't talk to anybody but the elders.
These are universal policies set down by the Watchtower that are followed throughout the world, meaning that there are victims around the world.
The Watchtower's blood policy is bad science, and it's not biblical.
Doubt is all right. And I would say if you put that package of ideas together, to what extent are the elders of the Watchtower Society really fulfilling the teaching of Jesus, which is a teaching that God is love?
We have to come together and say, you know what, we're sick of this. What are you going to do? What are you going to change to protect kids? Because we're here and we're not going anywhere.
So that was the sizzle reel for the truth about the truth. Hopefully you're as excited seeing it as I was when I first saw it, because I genuinely believe this film has a huge potential to influence people and to get the message across in ways that I will personally always be limited in terms of my own activism. But I just feel, Javier, that when it comes to documentary films, and particularly now with services like Netflix, you know, bringing these documentary films to the fore in a way that was unheard of, you know, just a few years ago, I feel this is a really positive way of getting the message across.
Yeah, I agree. I think services like Netflix and a lot of the streaming services have been, a boom for the documentary filmmakers, because there's a lot of great films that get made. There's a lot of Marvel comic book films, and people are less and less inclined to pay $10 to go to the movie theaters to watch a documentary. But I personally have never watched more documentaries at home since before Netflix. I consume a lot of documentaries and just for research, and just I like the genre. But Netflix and all those streaming services are good, and we're hoping that we can tap into that and reach a large amount of people.
Now, you mentioned 40 hours worth of material. That represents a heck of a lot of traveling, a heck of a lot of interviewing people, a lot of work, a lot of experiences. I'm just wondering, out of all of that kind of filming phase, what has been the highlight for you so far?
Well, I mean, there's been several highlights. Of course, the trip to London was just great, and being able to meet all the people that who I've already seen their stories on the news and in newspapers and articles. But I think what has surprised me the most is the willingness of abuse survivors to share their stories. You know, some very, very personal traumas that they're talking about on screen. But when they find out what the aims of this project are, you know, they come forward and you know, they reveal some really personal things that you know, it would be difficult for anyone to do, but they do it with passion and eager, and they're happy to do so. And also the professionals. So we've interviewed, as you know, Zalkin. We've interviewed Rick Simmons, and you know, those guys are very busy guys who've taken hours out of their day. They've traveled significant distances to meet with us, or we've traveled to meet with them, and you know, they're just very open, very welcoming, very generous with their time, and you know, I couldn't be more grateful for what they've given us so far. I'm just excited about what else we can get and how we can put all this together and make something that's really, really powerful.
Indeed. Now, just for viewers who aren't familiar with the film project, before seeing the Sizzle Reel, I think it would be nice to just recap on what we're aiming for. So, would you be able to kind of describe what would be your elevator pitch for the film, and what areas of Watchtower abuse will it be dealing with?
Well, my quick, they call it the 2-minute pitch, is, you know, I don't always like to compare to other organizations, but I always say there are at best 50,000 Scientologists in the world, at best. But just about everybody knows about them. You know, just about everybody has read about them. But there are 8 million plus Jehovah's Witnesses in the world. And few people know that they have a child sexual abuse problem, very similar to what the Catholic Church had a few years ago. Few people know that they shun former members. Few people know that perhaps hundreds to thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses die every year for refusing blood transfusions. And we just want to tell that story. We want to tell people about this, because there's 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses across the world. And so that's my quick 2-minute pitch. That's what we're addressing in the film. And what we'd like to do is not just talk about the issue. You know, we want to present the people behind the issue, their stories, because you know, all these issues are crucial, but they need to have a human face. In order for you or I or the viewers to sympathize or feel something or be moved to address the issue, you have to see people as people, humans. And so that's what we're trying to do.
Excellent. And I'm right in saying that we've kind of focused in on, or zeroed in on 3 areas: child abuse, blood transfusions, and shunning.
Right.
We've already got a lot of footage in terms of speaking with abuse survivors and lawyers, as you mentioned, on the child abuse side. You know, we've spoken quite a bit about shunning. I think we're a little bit behind at this moment with blood transfusions, but that's something we're going to be probably catching up with in January onwards. Would that be right?
Yeah, the plan in January, as we restart filming, is to kind of catch up with the blood transfusion topic, and that was a little bit tough because usually there are no survivors.
Yeah,
you know,
the people who need to be represented are no longer alive. So
exactly,
yeah, and
so what we do have are their families, their loved ones, people who have challenged the policy in the courts, in the court system. And fortunately, those people are often willing to talk to us. I know in my experience so far, just trying to reach out, there's been difficulty with doctors because they can't reveal patient information. That's a very, very critical thing here in the States. So we kind of have to navigate those waters very, very carefully. But, you know, we want to give it the proper focus and the proper attention in this film, and we're going to do that.
Now, we've spoken about Netflix. Are you able to kind of give any idea on what our ambitions are when it comes to distribution and you know what strategy we're taking with pursuing that side of things?
Well, ideally, it would be, if we can get this on Netflix, it would be great. Netflix has been, they're buying content, and they're working with a lot of producers, especially with documentary projects. They do have a certain criteria with how the projects are funded and how they're filmed and all those things before they take someone on. And so we're trying to address all those things as we move forward with the production. There's no guarantees, right? There's no, but we want to make sure that if we're able to sit down at the table with a representative from Netflix, that we've covered all the bases and we'll make their decisions easier. But aside from that, me personally, I like to work on narrative films. So it would also be cool if we can get it on a big screen somewhere. But we'll explore all those avenues. I think the most important thing to do is to focus on the work, to make sure that we're creating a quality film, and that it's something that touches and reaches people on an emotional level. And I think everything else will work itself out. We just do good work.
Actually, that's one thing, if I can just say, because I've had mixed experiences with collaborating with people in the past for various reasons. And one thing when I first got involved with working with you was this insistence that the quality needs to be right, and that we make the film as good as it possibly can be. And I just want to share with the viewers one anecdote from when we were in London. I can't remember which interview it was now, but we did this, and obviously we'd all travelled individually to get there to do the interview. We'd planned it and everything, and I can remember after the interview you saying something along the lines of, I think we might need to record that interview again at a later stage. I think we could do that better. And I'm thinking, what? We've spent so long planning this interview. It's taken so much effort to get it done, and now you're saying that at some point in the future we're going to... But now that the more I've seen of the footage gathered so far, and the more I've kind of thought about it, it makes perfect sense that if you want to make a film that's as good as it possibly can be, you need to be that ruthless with the material.
Yeah, it definitely helps that. So the director of this project, his name is Juan Escobedo. He's not a Jehovah's Witness. He's just interested in the themes and topics that we're addressing, and he has a creative vision for how he wants everything to come about. But he's not the kind of guy who will slap his name on a project if it's done poorly. And so the driving force for perfection on how we do things, it really is Juan. And so I've kind of I'm learning from him. But it's also one of those things where you and I, because of our situations, we feel this is a bit of a personal project as well. It's not just a creative endeavor. And so you want it to be perfect. And that's hard to do when you're doing that. There's some interviews that we're not going to be able to reshoot. Like I don't know that I can ask Zalkin for another 2 or 3 hours from his day, given how busy he is. So whatever faults I see in the interview that we have with him, we're going to have to figure out ways to work around those. But we take that and we learn, and when we move on to the next one. So there are moments where especially with Juan, where it's like you think everything went well, and he goes, you know what? I don't like this. I think we should do better. We should do it again. And you're like, do you know how much of my heart was into that little part that we just did? And but we got to do it. We got to do it again. So. But
that was one thing of the creative process that I really enjoyed, because usually when I'm making videos or I'm doing my work, there's just me really. And it was just amazing for the first time to actually be working with a crew and to have people with different roles in that crew. And obviously Juan, the director, and he had some fantastic advice for me when I was, doing the interviews. So it was a fantastic process to be involved in. And I'm really looking forward to picking up the thread in January and getting behind the camera again.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but everybody that has helped us out and has worked with us in the crew, everyone has been passionate about it. So yeah, I remember the week in London. To me, it was a blur. I mean, I try to remember like highlights but it was so much work. It went by so fast, and it was just, other issues going on with back home here with family and stuff like that. That it's just a complete blur in my mind. But the highlight of it that I do remember is the work that we did. And that's how I feel every time we're on the road and we're on location somewhere filming, and just everybody working together. Those are, I'm happy when I'm doing that.
In a way, that the fact that we'd all travelled so far to be there made it easier to do the work, because you're thinking, we're not going to get this chance again. We need to absolutely nail it. So there was a real intensity to that week, which I just thoroughly enjoyed. You mentioned funding. This is something that we've kind of talked about quite a bit. What are your hopes? What are you planning? How are you planning to get the funding in? Because obviously we said before that we started filming before we really had the funding in place. So where are we at this moment? Are we still hoping to secure the funding from traditional means?
Yeah, I mean, we're going through the grant process right now. There are a lot of documentary film grants, so we're filling out applications, submitting reels, whatever their requirements are. For the filming that we've already done, we did receive some help from former Jehovah's Witnesses who were aware, and they volunteered. We didn't ask them for money, but they said, yeah, I support you. Here's some money. Go to London and film that. And how can you ever repay someone for that, or I'm eternally grateful for those contributions. And the idea is, today a lot of people do crowdfunding for their projects. And of course, that's not out of the question. And my only concern with crowdfunding was, I don't want to just crowdfund to start a project. I want to crowdfund to finish a project.
Yeah.
If it comes to that, if we can't raise enough money from grants and donations, or if we can't get a production company to fund us, and we have to go the crowdfunding route, I just want to have a raw film that just needs to be completed to get it out there. And I think that's the best way to approach it. But
yeah, I think it's a wise approach. I think as well with the former Jehovah's Witness community in general, there's kind of a sensitivity when it comes to money, because we've all kind of grown up in a cult where the idea was, everything should be done for free. And everyone kind of gives these voluntary donations, and there's no kind of transparency either when it comes to how the money gets spent. You just have to put trust in the money being spent correctly, and only when you get out do you realise that a lot of the funds were being siphoned off to pay for court settlements and that kind of thing. So there's understandable wariness when it comes to anything to do with money, I've noticed. But I think that's the right approach, is to say, well, let's exhaust all other avenues, and if we do need to fall back on crowdfunding, it will be with an almost finished product that just needs pushing the last length of the way.
Yeah, I think that creates more values for the anybody who does contribute to a crowdfunding campaign. If they know that there will be an end product, a tangible thing at the end of their commitment. But it's funny you say about when it comes to dealing with money with the XJW community. I just put a post about what's going on in San Diego and the recent court decision. And I said just that. I said, Watchtower's using, donations to the worldwide work to pay for these things. And so when former Jehovah's Witnesses are weary about giving people money, it's completely understandable.
Yeah.
And so if we ever have to do that, let's make it easy for them. Let's say, hey, we have this film project. This is it. I can show you a tidbit, and we just need to bring it home. And I hope that that'll work.
Yeah, but we'll see. Hopefully it won't come to that, but you just never know, do you? So as a final question, or basically an opportunity for you to kind of have your say, obviously there's now kind of a small community on Facebook for the film. I think it's facebook.com/TTATT film, if I'm correct.
That's right.
I'll put that on the screen. If you could kind of give a call to arms and a message of what you're wanting from former witnesses, and particularly from the community that's following the film, or what you'd like them to know, what would it be?
Well, first, I would like them to know that we're working really hard to bring this all the way through. A lot of people that are involved are doing it freely. So our motivation is to get the stories out there, to put human faces on these stories, and to address those three critical issues that we think are the most harmful. I also want to tell the community that I understand that there are many issues that you guys would like to see addressed on film, and maybe we'll have a chance to address all those issues. But please don't think that just because we're focusing on these three issues that we don't care about all those other issues. It's just, we don't always have the bandwidth to do everything all at once, even if we wanted to. And aside from that, I want them to know that if they want to share their stories, if they have a story that they'd like to share that falls within those three areas, child abuse, shunning, or the blood prohibition, please reach out. Even if you want to do it anonymously, we'll hear you out. We'll talk to you. We'll consider how we can share your story if you want to do it anonymously. But it's going to be important that these stories get out there, and you will be integral to that. So reach out to us, and we'll do what we can and make sure we get in touch with you.
Fantastic. Yeah, I would echo that. If you're interested in following the film, or perhaps you're even interested in getting your story into the film, we'll always hear you out and see what we can do. So again, it's facebook.com/TTATT film. Check it out by all means, and as and when I can give you more updates on the progress, I will certainly do that. But Javier, until then, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Lloyd. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, so viewers, if you've enjoyed this video, you know what you need to do. It's click subscribe, and hopefully you'll see more similar interviews like this in the near future. But until then, as always, thank you for watching.